ذكرنا واتبع هواه وكان أمره فرطا وقل الحق من ربكم فمن شاء فليؤمن ومن شاء فليكفر ومن شاء فليكفر إنا أعتدنا للظالمين نارا أحاط بهم سرادقها وإن يستغيثوا يغاثوا بماء كالمهل يشوي الوجوه بئس الشراب وساءت مرتفقا إن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات إنا لا نضيع أجر من أحسن عملا أولئك لهم جنات تجري من تحتهم الأنهار يحلون فيها من أساور من ذهب ويلبسون ثيابا خضرا من سندس وإستبرق نعم الثواب وحسنت مرتفقا اللهم اجعلنا منهم يا رب.
السلام عليكم.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
إن الحمد لله ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله ونصلي ونسلم عليه وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وعلى أصحابه بجهدهم وتضحيتهم قام هذا الدين فرضي الله عنهم أجمعين. Last time we were talking about friendship, and so we wanted to continue that a little bit. But before going into that, we wanted to talk about who we are as human beings. We also wanted to talk about some of the impact on our lives on social media and how we can address that a little bit. We had that as part of the program that we did on Family Day, but majority, I don't think, came. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala in the Quran tells us, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. This is especially important for us to reflect on the meaning of this ayah. That Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala created us in the best of forms. If Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala wanted to create us a different way, with our heads coming from the sides, Allah would have created us that way. If Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala wanted to give us 6 arms, would have gave us 6 arms, 4 eyes. On top of that, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala created each individual uniquely, so that there may be some similarities between one person and another person, but each person is unique before Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Something that is incredibly amazing, because you can have a being that's called human being, but there's no way that we can define that one human being in the same way. In other words, you have Muhammad, you have Maryam, and you have Abdul Karim, you have Ahmed, and you have Fatima. And each of those people, they're unique. All of them are human beings and all of them are unique. Why is that important? Because a lot of us, when we're going through our changes in life, we begin to question our own value. So then what do? We begin to compare ourselves with other people. And we begin to talk about what we have. And last time we talked about the issue of video games. But today we wanted to talk a little bit about the problem of selfies. Not that all selfies are bad. Don't say that the Imam is going against the selfies. The issue of the selfies, especially when it comes to the young girls, is this issue that we know can debate with us on the issue. We know that the constant selfies and the constant taking of the pictures and putting them on Instagram and putting them on TikTok and so on and so forth, we know that that has a massive impact. By studies that have been done in England, there was a study that came out that from Harvard Public Health. We know that it takes away from your sense of self-worth. We know that it's a cause of depression. Even, and we talked about this point before, even to the point where people begin to feel suicidal. Depression is when you have, not just that you feel sad for a couple of days or you feel sad because something bad happened to you. It's because you feel sad for a long period of time and it disrupts your ability to do anything. You don't have a motivation to do anything. Your friends call you, no. Your parents call you to dinner, no. You're in a dark room and you stay like that for long periods of time. That's in the extreme form. There's other forms. But as Muslims, this reality we have to have clear. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala created you in the best of forms. And this is specifically addressed to the sisters. So at tazayyun, you know, when you see you put on makeup and so on and so forth, and don't say the imam is against makeup. But when you put the makeup on, and then you have to take selfies after selfies after selfies, and it begins to affect how you look at yourself as far as your dignity is concerned, then we have a problem. My issue is not the selfies. My issue is not the makeup. My issue is not even being on social media. My issue is, what is the impact on us that we have to talk about? And so then we come into an issue that sometimes we may not feel confidence. And we know, for the sake of time, we know that Musa alayhi salatu was salam, he was sent by Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala to go to Pharaoh. Now, we have two types of human beings here now. We have the Muslim, Musa alayhi salatu was salam. He has a relationship to Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. He's a leader in the community. And then we have Pharaoh, who's a human being that's confused about himself and his role in the world, a human being who's arrogant. And we see that. This is the same, these characteristics we see that I'm better than you. Even this is a quality that we see in Shaitan. When Shaitan was commanded to prostrate to Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, he had that arrogance. I'm better than you. And this is what begins to happen when we compete with each other. And when we begin to criticize each other. And when we begin to criticize if a person is fat or if a person is skinny or this and that. And we don't think about the impact. Is at times we're going to experience a sense of lack of confidence. Musa alayhi salatu wa salam asked Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, Rabbi yashrih li sadri. Musa asked Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, the one that created him, to expand his sadr. And here the ulama, they go into a lot of different definitions of what sadr means. But some of them say that it means his ability to do what he needed to do, to have confidence in that. And so from there he asked Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, وَيَسِّرْ لِي يَمْرِي, make my affair easy, and so on and so forth. So yes, we're going to feel sometimes that we may not have confidence to be Muslim, to take our position the way that we need to take it. This is we can pause for a moment that the reality that Musa faced with Pharaoh is the reality that we face in today's time with having to be Muslim in the world. That we have a responsibility to be firm in our deen, and we have a responsibility to be confident in our deen, and we have a responsibility to share the reality of the meanings of the deen with society, with others. When we know for a fact that what is going on is not the best of behaviors from the human being. But what we do is we lose that confidence. And we understand, especially we speak to the youth, we understand it's a challenge. We understand that it's a challenge to be a Muslim. We understand that it's a challenge to be Palestinian or to be African as a Muslim, or to be Latino, whatever it is that you are as far as your cultural background. As a Muslim, we understand that challenge. We can't take that challenge away from you. That's a challenge that all of us have to live, old and young. But what's worrisome is when we begin to lose our confidence. Because we said before, Islam is not just about rules, it's about guidance. And we said that those rules in Islam are about indicating to us where is there benefit for us and where is the harm is at. And we mentioned before, okay, fine, if you do what you do, it's not going to affect the law by any means. It may get your parents upset and so on and so forth. But at the end, the problem will come back to you. You have to be responsible for the decisions that you make. So either you build and you construct your life in a way that's benefiting to you with the guidance that you're given to give you an understanding of where harm and benefit is at. It's like a GPS in real time. Don't go this route. If you go down Kennedy now, the traffic is there, there's construction, there's a police officer, so on and so forth. Fine, it's your problem if you go down that route. You may not get onto the highway. So you'll be delayed as to where you want to go. It's the same thing in the deen. It will be your problem if you don't want to follow the deen. It's not about what the imam says. It's not about what so-and-so says. It will be your problem. You will be delayed in your life with regard to getting the benefit. And understand the benefit properly. Because the benefit, as is described in the society that we live in, is not the benefit that we're being called to 100%. The spotlight that we see everyone run to is because of a confusion that they have with themselves. So everybody wants to be the latest actor or the biggest athlete or the one that has the most followers and so on and so forth. And at the end of the day, we know for a fact that that human being goes through so many issues and so many struggles. How many people just wish to be a regular person where they can go to the store and shop at ease, where they don't have to have that sort of responsibility of having all of those followers or being in the spotlight? And if we get the spotlight, what do we use the spotlight for as Muslims? Whether it is that we're an actor, or whether it is that we're a lawyer, or whether it is that we're a president, or whether it is that we're rich, what do we use the spotlight for? Because we said we're Muslims. Do we use it to build our community? Or do we use it just to build ourselves and our family? Or just personal interest, and that's it? That's something to think about. But the issue of being in positions, the issue of having confidence and so on and so forth, that's something which we have a discussion with each other on in light of Islam. And we see that Musa alayhi salatu wasalam was given that responsibility. So if Musa had to ask Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala for confidence, then what about us? Well, we don't have Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala speaking us by the means of an angel directly, where we have to reflect on the Quran and we have to extract the meanings. So yes, we will have times where we don't have a sense of confidence. But one of the things that's most important is Musa is asking Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala to facilitate the affair for him, and is also asking for the ability to communicate. When we don't communicate properly, or we feel that we're not understood, this is when we begin to have that lack of confidence. That's why it's important for us to master our speech. Last time we talked about the issue of how Jannah is surrounded by struggle and Jahannam is surrounded by lust. Why do I bring this up? Because we talked about the issue of needing confidence. And we need to talk about the issue of seeing things clearly. What we give importance to is not always that which is within our best interest. It may be based on what is drawing our attention from the angle of our desire. And that's where social media is at. Social media is focused on making sure that our attention is there as long as possible. Then they steal as much information as possible from us. And it doesn't matter by whatever means that attention is gotten. And so what we find ourselves in the situation, what's the routine of the Muslim? You wake up in the morning, you have your salah. Then another salah comes, and another salah comes, and another salah comes, and another salah comes. And your day, as far as that is concerned, is done. Then you have your other activities, whether it's work or school or dealing with your family. Now where we're at now is we stay so stuck over here on this side that we become dysfunctional on our routine in life because of being online. And so we begin to see not only that, then the desire, there's things that are there that call our attention, but what they're calling our attention to is our own destruction at times. We talked about that before, the necessity to use social media in a way that's productive. We're not against social media. It's not going to go anywhere. But the reality is, where are we as Muslims in terms of how we use it? And so the issue comes now, like for instance, when we look at the hadith, لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه. We talked about the issue of communication. We talked about the issue of confidence. We're social beings. We need to be with each other. But how do we implement this reality? We can't have our young women, our young girls having issues of depression and body issues and confidence issues, not loving themselves. In the hadith, we can't love each other till we love ourselves. And the type of love that we're talking about here is that we know what is beneficial for us. The time doesn't permit to go into a lot of details, but one of the objectives of the Sharia is the preservation of the intellect, of our minds. And we talked about that before from the angle of the impact of drugs and so on and so forth, how it can impact our minds and our thinking and so on. But it's not only drugs, it's also what we see, what we consume. Is also how we're dealing in that world, that cyber world, that is impacting our self-image and our concept of ourselves, and our state of well-being, and our state of peace, and our ability to communicate with each other. So we don't fulfill the first part of loving ourselves, and we don't fulfill the second part of being able to love each other, so our iman remains incomplete. Because we're not investing in ourselves to be able to have that sense of knowing what's beneficial for us. We have a principle that there's no harm or no causing harm. And that's based on the hadith of Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. لا ضرر ولا ضرار. There's no harming and there's no reciprocation of harm. There's no harming and there's no reciprocation of harm. But what we're doing is we're harming ourselves and we're reciprocating harm. Because unfortunately, even when we say, let's take social media for dawah, it ends up not being the realm of dawah. It ends up being the realm where the Muslims are arguing with each other, fighting with each other about the meanings of Islam. And not only that, it gets worse. It comes into a situation in which we begin to bully each other. We begin to talk bad about each other. We begin to expose each other. And so then our speech now is not the speech which is building an ummah. This is not to be judgmental. This is to talk about nushakhis al-waqi', about what it is that's taking place. So then we come under the issue that we're harming and we're reciprocating the harm. We're harming others and others harm us. We're harming ourselves. So if we talk about the issue of love, then we should know how to love ourselves, and then we should talk about what it is that we expect from others. If we understand the meaning of harm, then what is it that we are tolerating from others, and what is it that we're giving to others? This is where a lot of us are failing at. Yani in al-mu'amalat. There's a lot of things that we can come up with here. But there was a text that was mentioned in Al-Hakim, where a companion asked the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "O Messenger of Allah, you have seen what is bestowed upon me from beauty. And because of that beauty that has been bestowed upon me, I don't like anyone else to look better than me. Is that arrogance? Is that transgression?" The Prophet ﷺ said that, respond, no, that's not transgression. No, that's not arrogance. What is arrogance or transgression is to reject the truth when faced with it and to look down on people. To look down on people. Another issue that comes up, and we brought that up because of the concept of how is it that we look at our own beauty. Do we value our own beauty? And I'm specifically speaking to the young sisters. Do you value your own beauty? We established already that Allah Ta'ala created you in dignity. And if you have some acknowledgement of your beauty, do you respect your sister enough, or do you throw it at her? You're not beautiful like me. The other issue is that when we talk about nasiha, when we talk about flaws, we're supposed to be wanting the good for each other. So if we see each other online, how is it that we deal with each other online? What is it that we're bringing to the table with regard to supporting each other to the good? And lastly, the issue of hasad. Hasad is where you see good in someone, and not only do you want it, but you want it destroyed in them. And gifta is when you don't, that you see it in someone and you want it, whatever it is that they have, but you don't want to destroy them. And so when we look at that reality, we see that hasad, we see that talking bad about each other, we see that comparing ourselves to one another is what we get. So I want to close with saying this. The UK did a study of 1,500 teens, the Royal Society for Public Health, and young adults about social media habits. They found that Instagram and other social media networks are associated with high levels of anxiety, depression, bullying, and fear of missing out. And the more consumption that came, the more that depression and anxiety came. And they began to have unrealistic expectations of life and themselves and so on and so forth. So we try to lay down some basic rules, and we say, one of the things that we have to do is we have to learn how to take a break. One of the things that we have to do is learn how to build communities in which our youth and we function with each other. And so with that, we end. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر لي ولكم والحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما صليت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم وبارك على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما باركت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم في العالمين انك حميد مجيد. We ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to protect us and sustain us. We ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to protect our honor and our dignity. And we ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala for a sense of confidence and ability and strength. And we ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to put love between us and our hearts. We ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to aid those who are sick and in the hospital or at home alone. We ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala for those who have died and gone before us to accept them and to forgive them and give them the highest states of Jannah. Aqimus Salah.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Please shut off your cell phones. Completely shut them off. Allahu Akbar. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا صراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين
والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواسوا بالحق وتواسوا بالصبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا صراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Assalamu alaikum. So the 11th of December